The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Admiral Olivia Harding stepped up to the speaking platform. Her blue uniform stood out among the colorful robes and exoskeletons of the alien representatives. The human delegation was smaller than usual today, just 3 people where normally there would be 12. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Olivia began, her voice steady and clear. I come before you today with news of great importance. As of this morning, Earth Standard Time, humanity has made a unanimous decision. We will be leaving known space within 1 standard galactic year. The chamber erupted. Some delegates rose from their seats, tentacles and appendages gesturing wildly. Others whispered to their aides. A few simply stared in disbelief. The chairbang, an ancient sox with silvery scales, raised its central limb for quiet. Admiral Harding, surely you cannot mean all humans. Perhaps you are referring to a military withdrawal or diplomatic restructuring. Olivia shook her head. I mean exactly what I said, Chairbeing. All humans, every colony, outpost, research station, and settlement. We are going, and we are taking everything we built with us. On the far side of the chamber, a grin spread across the face of Ambassador Frohl of the Turkan Empire. The Turkans had always viewed humans as troublemakers and competitors. Their ambassador made no effort to hide his satisfaction. May we ask why? The Chairbang's voice betrayed genuine concern. The reasons are our own, Olivia replied. We have shared this decision as a courtesy to our neighbors of 50 years. Our withdrawal will be orderly and complete. In the upper gallery, Ambassador Krilltak of the Valorian Conclave leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowing. The Valorians were among the oldest species in the Council, and they had been the first to welcome humans to the galactic community. Krilltak had studied human behavior for decades. This announcement made no sense. Humans never retreated without reason. They were stubborn, persistent, and almost irritatingly hopeful. Krilltak pressed a button to activate his microphone. Admiral Harding, the Valorian Conclave wishes to understand if this decision comes as a response to some grievance against the Council. If so, perhaps we can address. There is no grievance, Ambassador, Olivia cut in. This decision is final. In the back of the chamber, Junior Diplomatic Officer Ryan Parker entered data into his tablet, recording the reactions of each species. The Muldari delegates seemed relieved. The Haggle representatives were calculating financial implications. The Jiks were already discussing which human territories they might claim. Only Krilltak seemed genuinely troubled. After the formal announcement, Olivia and her team headed toward their shuttle. Krilltak hurried to intercept them in the private diplomatic corridor. Admiral, he called, his voice lowered. We have known each other for 15 years. Please, as a friend, tell me what is happening. Olivia stopped, looking around to ensure they were alone. Ryan and the 3rd human delegate moved ahead, giving them privacy. I can't, Krill. But I will say this. Remember when we brought evidence of the deep space anomalies 3 years ago? Krilltak's upper eyes blinked in recognition. The Council dismissed your findings as measurement errors. They weren't errors. Olivia's face had grown serious. Your people have ancient records dating back millions of years. You might want to review the sealed archives from the time before your first enlightenment. That's prehistoric data, mostly considered myth. Krilltak stopped as understanding dawned. The darkness between stars. You found evidence of it. Olivia simply held his gaze for a moment. Goodbye, old friend. I truly hope we meet again. As the human shuttle departed the Council station, species across the chamber broke into clusters, debating what this unprecedented move meant. Some celebrated, some worried about economic impacts, and some began plotting to fill the power vacuum humans would leave. None of them, except a deeply troubled Valorian ambassador, considered that humanity might know something they didn't. Something terrible enough to make an entire species disappear into the unknown reaches of space. John Reeves wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the readings on the massive void shield generator. The red Martian dust had settled on everything in the facility, despite the air filters working overtime. Around him, dozens of engineers and technicians rushed to complete their work. "How's the power flow?" John called to his team. "Steady at 93%, replied Linda, her face glowing in the light of her screen. "That's 17% higher than we ever reported to the Council." John nodded. For years, humanity had carefully hidden their true technological capabilities from the other species. It wasn't deception, exactly. More like keeping an ace up their sleeve. And now they needed every ace they could get. "The Archimedes is docking in 30 minutes, announced the facility eye. "All core components must be ready for loading." The Archimedes was just one of thousands of massive cargo ships now orbiting Mars. From orbit, the planet looked like it was surrounded by a metal ring. Every day, more of Mars was being taken apart, its resources harvested for the journey ahead. On the other side of the solar system, Kate Reeves stepped off the transport shuttle onto Earth's New Zealand spaceport. After 5 years on Proxima Centauri IV, the gravity felt strange. She had been recalled suddenly, along with every other xenobiologist working in human space. "Dr. Reeves." A young officer approached her. "I'm Officer Ben Martinez. I'm here to escort you to Auckland Base." As their ground transport sped along the coastal road, Kate stared out at the ocean. "It looks so empty," she said. Ben nodded. "Most civilian ships have already departed. The fishing fleets were among the first to go." "Has everyone bought into this plan?" Kate asked. "Leaving everything behind." "There were protests at first," Ben admitted. "But after the president's address, after people saw the evidence, well, there's nothing like an extinction-level threat to unite humanity." At Auckland Base, Kate was led to a massive underground facility. Inside, she gasped. The space was filled with thousands of containment units, each housing different alien plant and animal species. "Welcome to the ARC project," said Dr. Frank Wade, stepping forward to greet her. "We're preserving every non-human species from our worlds. We won't leave them behind to face what's coming." Across the galaxy, alien observers watched humanity's activities with growing concern. On the Valorian homeworld, Ambassador Krilltak reviewed ancient texts mentioned by Admiral Harding. "This can't be right," he muttered, his 4 eyes widening as he translated the ancient symbols. "If these records are accurate..." He rushed to contact the Valorian High Council, clutching data tablets containing information not accessed for millennia. Meanwhile, in orbit around Jupiter, Captain Ellie Simmons oversaw the dismantling of Ganymede Station. Once home to 10 million humans, the moon was now a shell of its former self. "Ma'am," her first officer reported, "we've detected 3 cloaked Turcan vessels observing our operation." Ellie smiled thinly. "Let them watch. They still don't understand what they're seeing." The Turcans, like most species, thought humanity was running away. They didn't realize that humans were gathering strength, harvesting resources on an unprecedented scale. In the council chambers, emergency sessions had been called. Species that had competed with humans for resources now scrambled to claim soon-to-be-abandoned territories. "The humans must know something," insisted a representative from the Eldari Federation. "We should be investigating why they're leaving, not dividing their scraps." "Their loss is our gain," countered the Turcan delegate. "Let them run." Only the Valorians remained silent, as their scientists worked frantically to verify the ancient warnings. On Mars, John Reeves watched as the last generator was loaded onto the Archimedes. "Do you think the other species will figure it out in time?" asked Linda. John looked up at the stars, barely visible through Mars' dusty atmosphere. "I hope so, but we can't wait around to find out." Across human space, the exodus continued. Earth grew emptier by the day. Colony worlds were systematically evacuated. And in high orbit above each human world, massive ships waited, their true purposes and capabilities still hidden from alien eyes. Commander Peter Dawson stood on the bridge of the U.S. horizon, watching Earth on the main view screen. The blue planet looked different now. Most of its lights were gone. The great cities that had once sparkled like diamonds were dark. A steady stream of ships rose from the surface, joining the massive fleet gathered in orbit. "Status report," Peter said, his voice calm despite the weight of the moment. "All systems ready, sir," replied First Officer Diana Clark. "The fleet is in position. 97% of Earth's population has been evacuated. The last transports will clear the atmosphere in 43 minutes. Peter nodded. 1 year after Admiral Harding's announcement to the Galactic Council, the day of departure had arrived. Humanity was about to leave known space. "Open a channel to all human vessels," Peter ordered. Diana pressed several controls. "Channel open, sir. You're addressing 4 billion souls across 20,000 ships." Peter took a deep breath. "This is Commander Dawson of the U.S. Horizon. Today we leave behind the stars we have known. We leave behind worlds we have called home. But we carry with us what makes us human: our courage, our determination, and our hope." He paused, then added, "Initiate departure sequence. Activate Phase 1 drives on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Across the solar system, human vessels began to glow with a strange blue light. The energy signatures detected by alien monitoring stations jumped to levels never before seen from human technology. The ships didn't move immediately. Instead, they seemed to gather power. On the Valorian observation post at the edge of the human solar system, scientist Thelmar stared at his instruments in disbelief. "That's impossible," he whispered. "These energy readings are beyond anything in our records." The human fleet began to move, not one by one, but all at once, as if choreographed. They formed perfect patterns across space, military vessels protecting civilian ships, mining platforms, and orbital habitats tucked safely in the center. As they reached the edge of the solar system, emergency transmissions flooded the communication channels. The Galactic Council, realizing too late that they were losing something valuable, sent frantic messages. To the human fleet, "We offer new treaties, new territories, full voting rights on the Council," came the message from the chairbeing. Peter listened to the pleas but didn't respond. The decision had been made long ago. The evidence had been presented and ignored. Now it was time to save what could be saved. On a small transport ship, Mary Scott held her 5-year-old son close as they watched the stars shift on their view screen. "Where are we going, Mom?" the boy asked. "Somewhere safe," Mary answered, hoping it was true. On the horizon, Peter gave the final command. "Activate Phase 2 drives." The blue glow around the human ships intensified. Space itself seemed to bend around them. And then, in a flash of light that temporarily blinded every sensor in the region, the entire human fleet vanished. In the council chambers, representatives watched the recorded footage in stunned silence. "They're gone," the chairbeing finally said. "All of them." Ambassador Krilltak stood up. "Not all of them. A few thousand humans chose to remain behind, and I suggest we start listening to them." He held up an ancient data crystal. "My people have confirmed the validity of our oldest records. The darkness that comes between galaxies is real. The humans tried to warn us." "What darkness?" demanded the Turkan ambassador. "What are you talking about?" "Something ancient, something that feeds on energy and life," Krilltak replied. "Something that has visited our galaxy before, millions of years ago." The humans called it the Void Heralds. As the council erupted into panic and debate, the human fleet traveled through a realm of space never before navigated. Their destination was unknown to all but a few commanders. Behind them, they left a galaxy unprepared for what was coming. But they had a plan, forged in secret during years of preparation. Humanity hadn't fled in fear. They had withdrawn to prepare for war. 6 months after humanity's departure, the galaxy felt empty. Kevin Winters wiped down the bar counter at the last stop, his small establishment on Nexus Station. The station had once been a bustling hub where humans and aliens mingled freely. Now, The human section was nearly deserted. "Another drink, human?" asked a Mulderry trader, pushing his empty glass forward. Kevin nodded and poured a purple liquid into the glass. "That'll be 8 credits. The Mulderry paid and leaned forward. "Is it true what they're saying? That your people knew about some ancient enemy?" Kevin had heard this question many times in recent months. As one of only a few thousand humans who chose to stay behind, he had become an unwilling ambassador for his species. "I just serve drinks," Kevin replied with a practiced smile. "Politics was never my thing." The truth was more complicated. Kevin had stayed behind for a reason. He was part of a network of human observers, left to watch and report. Their communications with the departed fleet were hidden, encrypted in ways the Galactic Council couldn't detect. At a table in the corner, 2 Turkans were arguing loudly. "The human withdrawal has cost us 30% of our trade routes." One shouted, "Our economy is collapsing." The other Turkan waved a dismissive tentacle. "We'll adapt. We always do." Kevin listened carefully. The Turkans had been the most vocal about claiming abandoned human territories. Now they were learning that human-built infrastructure was mysteriously failing without human maintenance. The station's lights flickered briefly. This had been happening more frequently lately. Many technologies that humans had helped develop were showing signs of unexpected degradation. Kevin's communicator buzzed quietly. He glanced at the message. "Meeting tonight. Urgent news." Later that night, Kevin entered a small apartment in the station's maintenance section. 5 other humans were already there, gathered around a holographic display. "What's happening?" Kevin asked. Samantha Lee, once a professor of xenobiology at the Mars University, now posing as a cleaning contractor, activated the display. "We've received a coded message from the fleet. They've established a base in the Andromeda galaxy." The room fell silent. Andromeda was 2.5 million light-years away. No known species had ever traveled between galaxies. "That's impossible," whispered Aaron Kruz, a former engineer. "Even with the Phase 2 drives, that kind of distance." "They've developed Phase 3, Samantha replied simply. "And they found something there. Evidence that the Void Heralds have visited before." Outside the human quarters, the galaxy was changing. Pirates were growing bolder, attacking trade routes once protected by human peacekeeping ships. The Jix Empire had begun expanding into neighboring systems, territories they would never have dared claim when humanity was present. On the Valorian homeworld, Ambassador Krultak met with the High Council. His normally smooth blue skin was now lined with worry. "The ancient records are clear," he said. "The Void Heralds came before, when our ancestors were still primitive. They fed on energy, on technology, on life itself. Only a small group of species survived, hiding on worlds without technology. And the humans believe these creatures are returning," asked the eldest council member. "They don't just believe it," Krultak replied. "They have proof. Astronomical data shows disturbances at the edge of our galaxy, the same patterns described in our oldest texts." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Krultak raised his voice to be heard. "We must prepare. The humans tried to warn us, and we ignored them. We can't make that mistake again." Back on Nexus Station, Kevin sent a coded message to the human fleet. The galaxy was starting to realize what it had lost. Species that had once looked down on humans were now struggling without them. As he finished his transmission, he looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was preparing. And somewhere, much closer than anyone wanted to believe, darkness was approaching. Little did the galaxy know that humanity hadn't abandoned them. They had simply moved to higher ground, preparing for the flood that was coming. 2 years after the Exodus, Dr. Susan Fletcher stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The small human outpost on Rigel VI was one of the few official human presences still maintained in the galaxy. As lead scientist, Susan was responsible for monitoring deep space and maintaining communication with alien research teams. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the calculations again. The readings from the galaxy's edge showed massive energy disturbances, patterns that matched exactly what humanity had predicted. Susan sent an urgent message to her team. Within minutes, the outpost's small conference room was filled with the remaining human scientists. "The readings are clear," Susan said, displaying the data on the large screen. "The first wave of void heralds will reach the outer rim in approximately 6 months. "Have you notified the council?" asked Dr. Paul Grayson, adjusting his glasses. Susan nodded. "I sent the data an hour ago. They've called an emergency session." In the Galactic Council chambers, panic was spreading. Representatives from 27 species argued loudly as the chair being tried to maintain order. "These readings could mean anything," shouted the Jix ambassador. "Why should we trust human data? They abandoned us." Ambassador Krultak stepped forward, his blue skin now showing signs of age that hadn't been there 2 years before. "The Valorian Conclave has verified these readings with our own instruments. The threat is real." The chamber fell silent. The Valorians were known for their scientific accuracy and lack of political games. "What do we do?" asked a small representative from the Muldari systems. "We have no defenses against something like this." "The humans were preparing for years," Krultak said quietly. "While we mocked their military spending and their obsession with developing new technologies, they were getting ready." On the outskirts of the galaxy, strange lights began to appear. Several frontier worlds reported unusual phenomena. Stars dimming temporarily, communication systems failing without explanation, animals behaving erratically. On the mining colony of Ta City IV, the entire population of 50,000 evacuated overnight, clinging their dreams were filled with darkness. Back at the human outpost, Susan received a transmission from an unexpected source. The message was heavily encrypted, but she recognized the signature immediately. It was from the human fleet. "They're coming back," she told her team, her voice a mix of relief and fear. "All of them?" Paul asked. "No," Susan replied, reading the decoded message. "Just an advance force. The main fleet is still preparing." Across the galaxy, reports came in of strange ships appearing at the edge of scanning range, then vanishing before they could be identified. Some claimed they were human vessels, but their design was like nothing seen before. In a secret meeting of the Council's Security Committee, military leaders from various species gathered to assess their defenses. "Our combined fleets number approximately 12,000 vessels," said the Turkan High Commander. "Is that enough?" A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed the energy readings from the galaxy's edge, with a simulation of what they represented. Vast, dark shapes moving between the stars, each one the size of a small moon. 12,000 ships against that," said the Aldari admiral, his voice hollow. "It would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain." As the galactic powers struggled to come to terms with the approaching threat, 3 human ships appeared in orbit around the Valorian homeworld. Their design was sleek, and unlike any previous human vessel, they broadcast a single message on all frequencies. "This is Lieutenant Gregory Palmer of Earth Fleet Special Reconnaissance. We bring evidence and instructions. The Void Heralds are coming, but humanity has not forgotten its neighbors. Prepare your people. Help is coming." Hope spread through the Valorian population as the message was relayed. Perhaps they were not abandoned after all. Meanwhile, at the very edge of the galaxy, the darkness between stars began to move with purpose, hungry for the light and life within. Lieutenant Gregory Palmer stood before the Galactic Council, his uniform crisp despite his long journey. Behind him, a large screen showed images that made many of the representatives gasp or turn away. "These are the Void Heralds," Gregory said, his voice steady. "We encountered them at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. My ship barely escaped." The images showed massive dark shapes moving through space. They weren't ships or creatures in any familiar sense. They looked like tears in reality itself, surrounded by swirling energy. "What exactly are they?" asked the chair being, its voice trembling slightly. "They're predators," Gregory replied. "Ancient entities that travel between galaxies, feeding on energy. All forms of energy, including the energy patterns created by conscious thought." The council chamber was silent. For once, not even the most argumentative species had anything to say. "The human fleet discovered evidence of them decades ago," Gregory continued. "Strange patterns in deep space, stars going dark before their time. We tried to warn you." The Jix ambassador stood up. "Why leave then? Why not stay and fight together?" "Because we needed resources you wouldn't share, technology you rejected as too dangerous, time you wouldn't give us." Gregory's tone wasn't accusing, just matter of fact. "So we left to prepare on our own." On the screen, the images changed to show a massive human fleet in orbit around an unfamiliar star system. Ships of designs never seen before, far larger than anything humans had previously built. "Where is this?" asked Kriltak. "A star system in the large Magellanic Cloud," Gregory answered. "We've been building there, mining entire planets for resources, developing weapons and shields that might work against the Heralds." The council erupted in disbelief. The large Magellanic Cloud was 160,000 light-years away. The idea that humans had traveled so far and established such a presence there in just 2 years seemed impossible. Gregory let them talk, watching their reactions. Some were afraid, some angry, some simply in denial. Finally, he raised his hand. "We don't have time for debate," he said firmly. "The Void Heralds will reach populated systems within 3 months. We need to start evacuating the Outer Rim immediately." In the following weeks, chaos spread through the galaxy. Some species began mass evacuations. Others fortified their worlds, convinced they could fight the coming darkness. A few, like the Turkans, simply refused to believe the threat was real. On the human outpost, Susan Fletcher coordinated with the remaining human observers scattered across the galaxy. They had become vital links between the returning human forces and the various alien governments. "The Eldari are requesting immediate assistance," Susan told Gregory during a secure transmission. "The Heralds have accelerated. They'll reach Eldari space in 3 weeks, not 3 months. Gregory's face showed concern. "We're moving as fast as we can. The main fleet is still 2 months out." "Then we need to buy time," Susan replied. "The Valorians have adapted some of our early shield designs. If we combine their fleet with the Eldari, it won't be enough," Gregory said. "But it might slow the Heralds down." He paused, then added, "I'll take my squadron to help them." As Gregory's small fleet of advanced human ships joined the combined Valorian and Eldari forces, news spread across the galaxy. Humanity had not abandoned them after all. They had gone to gather strength. And now they were returning to fight. On the edge of Eldari space, the first true battle against the Void Heralds began. The combined fleet faced creatures that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Weapons passed through them without effect. Shields failed as the Heralds drained their energy. Gregory's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. "Fall back to position Beta. Use the pulse pattern we discussed." The human ships fired weapons unlike anything seen before. Beams of energy that somehow pushed the darkness back, creating space for the Allied ships to regroup. For the first time, the galaxy witnessed what humanity had been preparing for all along. And for the first time, they understood why humanity had needed to leave to prepare properly. The battle at the edge of Eldari space lasted 7 days. By the end, half the combined fleet was destroyed or disabled. Gregory Palmer's squadron was down to 3 ships from the original 12. But they had accomplished something incredible. They had forced the Void Heralds to retreat, if only temporarily. As the battered fleet limped back to the nearest starbase, a massive energy signature appeared at the edge of the galaxy. The sensors lit up across every ship, station, and planet within scanning range. "What is that?" asked the Eldari admiral, looking at the readings with wide eyes. Gregory smiled for the first time in days. "That, admiral, is the main human fleet." Thousands of ships emerged from what appeared to be tiers in space itself. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding something in their center, something enormous. Colonel Michel Rivera stood on the bridge of the flagship, a vessel larger than any previously built by human hands. The Earth shield was over 15 kilometers long, built not just for war, but to carry the hopes of humanity. "Open a channel to all frequencies," Michelle ordered. "Let everyone hear us." Her image was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy as she spoke. "This is Colonel Michel Rivera of the United Earth Fleet. We have returned with weapons, shields, and a plan to defeat the Void Heralds. We offer protection to all species willing to stand with us." The response was immediate. After witnessing what Gregory's small squadron had accomplished, species that had once looked down on humans now begged for their help. Michel met with the Galactic Council aboard the Earth Shield. Representatives from every major species crowded into the massive conference room, marveling at technology far beyond what humans had ever revealed. "You've hidden your true capabilities from us for decades," said the chairman. "We developed most of this after we left," Michelle replied. 2 years for you was much longer for us." "How is that possible?" asked Kriltak. "Time dilation technology," Michelle explained. "We've been living and working in accelerated time bubbles. For us, it's been nearly 20 years since we left." The gathered representatives were stunned. Humans had not only traveled to other galaxies, but had manipulated time itself to prepare more thoroughly. "While we were gone, we discovered something important," Michelle continued. "The Void Heralds have been here before, millions of years ago. They're the reason so many ancient civilizations disappeared from the galaxy's records." She activated a holographic display showing star maps and historical data. But they were defeated once before, by a coalition of species working together. "We found the records in ruins scattered across 3 galaxies. If they were defeated before, they can be defeated again," said the Aldari Admiral. Michelle nodded. "Exactly. But it will take all of us working together." In the days that followed, human ships distributed advanced shield generators to worlds in the Herald's path. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians to prepare defenses. For the first time in galactic history, species that had fought for centuries put aside their differences in the face of a common enemy. Kevin Winters, once a bartender on Nexus Station, now served as a liaison between human forces and local governments. As he walked through a Turkin city, helping coordinate evacuation plans, he noticed something unexpected. Respect in the eyes of aliens who had once looked at humans with suspicion or contempt. "Is it true what they're saying?" asked a young Turkin. "That human saw this coming for generations." Kevin nodded. "Our oldest legends speak of darkness between stars. When our scientists found evidence it was real, we started preparing. Why help us after we dismissed your warnings?" Kevin smiled. "Because that's what humans do. We protect our own, and we decided long ago that our own includes everyone in this galaxy." Aboard the Earth Shield, Michelle met with her command staff as they prepared for the coming battle. The main force of Void Heralds had regrouped and was moving toward the core systems. "All fleets are in position," reported Admiral Henry Jackson. "The shield network is online around the most populated worlds." Michelle looked at the tactical display. Human vessels formed the backbone of the defense, but ships from every major species had joined them. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in the galaxy's history. "The Heralds will be here in 6 hours," Michelle said. "Send the message to all ships. Today we defend not just humanity, not just individual worlds, but life itself." As the human fleet prepared for battle, species across the galaxy watched and waited. Humanity had not abandoned them after all. They had simply gone to gather their strength, to prepare properly for a threat only they had taken seriously. And now they had returned, transformed by their journey, ready to stand against the darkness. The final battle against the Void Heralds spanned 7 star systems simultaneously. Human ships formed the core of the defense, with vessels from 24 alien species fighting alongside them. The darkness between stars had fully revealed itself, massive entities that absorbed energy and life, leaving only emptiness behind. Alan Bennett stood in the command center of Earth's defense platform, coordinating the multi-species alliance. Once a junior officer, he was now director of Earth's defense initiative, his hair gray from the 20 years he had experienced, while the galaxy experienced only 2. "The Heralds have broken through in Sector 4, reported a Valorian officer. The Aldari fleet is falling back. Direct the 7th and 9th human squadrons to support them," Alan ordered, "and tell them to deploy the phase disruptors." On the main screen, the battle unfolded in real time. The Void Heralds moved like living shadows, absorbing conventional weapons fire without effect. But the new weapons developed by humanity during their absence, the phase disruptors, created ripples of energy that the Heralds couldn't absorb. "The barrier generators are at 80%, called out Kate Reeves from her station. The plan wasn't just to fight the Heralds, but to trap them. Human scientists had developed technology to create a permanent interdimensional barrier, sealing the Heralds away forever. We need them at 100%, Alan replied. Buy us more time. Across the battlefield, human and alien ships fought side by side. The Turkans, once humanity's greatest rivals, now protected human science vessels as they moved into position. The Jiks, who had tried to claim human territories, now sacrificed their ships to save human colonies. On the Earth Shield, Colonel Michelle Rivera received a priority message from Alan. "The barrier technology is almost ready," she told her bridge crew. "We need to push the Heralds toward the containment zone." "That's suicide," said Admiral Jackson. "We'd have to get too close." Michelle nodded grimly. "I know. Prepare the shield for ramming speed." The Earth Shield, largest of humanity's vessels, moved directly toward the center mass of Void Heralds. Its advanced shields glowed bright blue as it pushed through the darkness, drawing the Heralds' attention and energy. In the command center, Alan watched as Michelle's ship disappeared into the swarm of Heralds. "All ships, fire phase disruptors on my mark," he ordered, his voice steady despite the sacrifice he was witnessing. 3, 2, 1, mark. Hundreds of ships fired simultaneously. The space around the Heralds rippled and tore. The Earth Shield reappeared, its shields failing but still intact, pushing the Heralds exactly where they needed to be. "Activate the barrier now," Ellen commanded. Kate pressed the final sequence. Massive generators across 7 star systems activated at once. Energy beams connected them, forming a perfect cage around the Void Heralds. The darkness fought against it, pushing at the energy walls, but couldn't break through. "Containment is holding," Kate reported, her voice filled with wonder. "It's working." The barrier solidified, becoming a permanent wall between dimensions. The Void Heralds, entities that had traveled between galaxies for millions of years, were finally trapped. As the remaining ships regrouped, the truth of what had just happened spread across the galaxy. Humanity, the species that had been dismissed and underestimated, had saved them all. 1 month later, the Galactic Council held a special session. Representatives from every known species attended, many still in shock from how close they had come to extinction. "The galaxy owes humanity a debt we can never repay," the chair being declared. "We offer leadership of a new, united galactic federation to our human friends." Alan Bennett, representing Earth, stepped forward. "We accept this honor," he said, "but only on one condition, that all species be treated as true equals going forward." The council chamber erupted in applause and agreement. The lesson had been learned. No species, no matter how young or different, should be dismissed. The knowledge and perspective each brought to the galaxy was valuable beyond measure. As the new Galactic Federation took shape, humanity found itself in a position no one could have predicted: respected leaders of a united galaxy. They had departed to prepare for war and returned to build peace. When humanity departed, the galaxy had held its breath in fear and uncertainty. Now it breathed freely again, stronger and more united than ever before.